Welcome to The Best of Our Knowledge, a program focused on education, learning, and research. On this episode, as Democrat Kathy Hochul begins her term as New York's first elected female governor, local students share some of the inaugural spotlight. Our Jody Cowan will have more. Bob Schneider of the New York State School Boards Association will provide analysis of Hochul's education goals for 2023, and the upstate New York video game industry gets a power-up with state funding. It's all next on The Best of Our Knowledge. Welcome to The Best of Our Knowledge. I'm your host, Lucas Willard. On January 1st, 2023, Democrat Kathy Hochul was sworn in as the first elected female governor of New York State. An historic inaugural ceremony featured live singing, a poem read by 8-year-old poet laureate and Harlem native Kaden Hearn, and Hochul highlighting her career path from working in local government to her official residence in Albany's Executive Mansion. Introducing the ceremony, a video titled The First showcased several young women from across the state reading excerpts from essays about what Hochul's inauguration means to them. More now from The Best of Our Knowledge's Jody Cowan.
The video played at the inauguration for New York's 57th and first elected female governor featured several students from Shaker High School in the North Colony Central School District in the state's capital region.
Governor Hochul gives me hope that maybe one day I could be there, standing at the podium.
I am thankful to Governor Hochul for taking that step and setting the stage for all that is to come for women.
Thank you, Governor Hochul, for being the first and making sure you're not the last.
Together, we're building a brighter future in New York.
The opportunity for the students to participate in the ceremony stemmed from the school's work with the New York-based nonprofit called First Amendment, First Vote. The organization seeks to introduce young women to the political ecosystem with a goal of reaching 50% representation by women in U.S. elected offices. North Colony Deputy Superintendent Kathleen Skeels says the district is excited to involve more students in the political process.
And the goal is to help young women understand that they can have a seat at the table and help them to understand how the political process works, how they can get engaged in working, whether they're the candidate themselves or working on a campaign or being a fundraiser, and just understanding the various levels of service from local government to obviously national office, and helping girls to see that pathway forward. So we jumped at the chance. We are the only Capital Region school participating this first year. In March, they will be going to a statewide conference in Seneca Falls, and we're very excited for them.
The district held its first seminar with First Amendment First Vote in December of 2022. Skeels says founder Melina Carnicelli invited New York State Office of General Services Commissioner Jeanette Moy to speak and participate in student roundtables.
It was at that event, which was in early December, we had a group of about 25 girls there, and she was so impressed that she was able to get the invitation for us to bring some girls to create a video for the governor's inauguration.
Skeels says 6 Shaker High School students were chosen to visit the state capitol, scripts in hand, to record themselves for the tribute. 10th grade student Krithi Paulus says she feels a strong sense of pride for her involvement.
I talked about how in the past we've always had women fighting for our rights, like Elizabeth Cady Stanton or like Sojourner Truth, and all those women fought every single day to have rights, and how now that we actually have more representation, it's like they fought for a good reason. And as a young woman and a person of color, I feel like we don't get represented, and having a female governor was really important to me because, you know, it is possible and other women can do the same. Also, like, the first is always kind of like the hardest, but that means that there's like a lot of more people who can come after that and take her like an example.
There's one part of Hochul's inaugural address that stood out to Paula.
The sign says, "I didn't come here to make history. I came here to make a difference."
It means a lot because it's saying that her being a woman isn't what makes her so great. It's that as a woman, she's making all these changes. And as a woman, she's showing that, you know, women like can do the same things as men, and they can make impactful decisions, and they can lead a country. And I feel like it's so important to have that example that she's a woman and she will make a difference as a woman.
First Amendment First Vote currently works within 10 regions of New York, engaging about 150 girls in conversation around political science and leadership development. Paula says having the program in her school has helped her think about her own career goals.
I want to meet people who are in government positions or meet people and know their experiences and maybe how that can help me for the future and maybe decide where I want to go. And I think this program will really help me do that, see what are the opportunities that I could have and how could I accomplish that in a way that's actually you doing the work. And so maybe some students, even if they have interest in that field, might not express it, especially because most people have such core beliefs and it could just be a mess. But I feel like these people in this club, that's my community. I can talk to these people because they get it. And I feel like that's really important also.
Deputy Superintendent Skeels says she hopes to get other regional schools involved in the program by continuing to work with the Capital District BOCES team.
I've been sharing with the leadership of that team everything that's happened for our students since we joined. And so at a regional meeting, I will be now sharing it with the other districts, because the goal is when they went to the local seminar, it was all our girls because we're the only district. But next fall, when we go to the local seminar again, we hope it'll be 30 girls, 5 from Shaker High School, but 25 others from 5 other districts, because the goal is for them to find community, not just within the school, but across school, so that they can learn how to network and be a community. Our girls already are. They were incredibly impressive. But for them to meet people who are doing the same work in other schools, I think will be outstanding.
Reporting from Latham, I'm Jody Cowan for the best of our knowledge.
You're listening to The Best of Our Knowledge. I'm Lucas Willard. Governor Kathy Hochul laid out her policy goals for 2023 in her State of the State address delivered earlier this month. The Democrat is seeking to invest billions of additional dollars into New York's public school system through foundation aid. Foundation aid is distributed through a formula that takes school district wealth and student needs into consideration, with the goal of equally distributing resources for all students. Under Hochul's plan, state schools would see an additional $2.7 billion in foundation aid funding, an increase of about 13%, bringing the state's total investment in foundation aid to around $24 billion. To gauge how school districts are reacting to the governor's school funding goals, the Best of Our Knowledge's Jim Levulis spoke with Bob Schneider, executive director of the New York State School Boards Association.
We're thrilled with that number that the governor has put into the State of the State as far as what she's proposing. That represents a 13% increase in foundation aid, which is the operational aid, the largest aid category that is the funding in order for our school districts to run the school system throughout the year. Now, 13% is a good jump. It's greater than inflation, and we have to realize that schools have significant increased costs due to this inflation issue. Just think about busing. You know, we see it at the pump with our own individual cars. Imagine what a fleet of buses cost now to fuel up and heating rooms and things of that nature. So we see that two things. She is committed to the foundation aid restoration phase-in. The third payment was due this year. That's part of that increase. And she's giving us the important increases to support not only the inflation costs, but all the important resources that go into running a school district every day, every month, and every year.
And Governor Hochul, in her State of the State address, promised to invest $125 million to expand full-day pre-K, saying with that funding, about 95% of the state would have access to universal pre-K for 4-year-olds. Do you think that's enough to meet that goal, that dollar figure, to meet that 95% goal?
We're very happy with that number. It basically doubles what was in the budget last year, and that 95% of students, 4-year-olds that are in have access to universal pre-K is really important. You can imagine the foundations are built when the child is very young. They can get into a pre-K system. They can get some maybe reading instructions, some social interaction, and once they get into kindergarten, they hit the ground running. And we think it's it's a cost savings in the long run, because building that foundation early on will hopefully there won't be remediation in the later years in high school when a student who might not have had access to pre-K to get going as far as certain skills and learning skills and things of that nature. We might have to invest more costs to get them to get up to speed.
Do you know when the expectation would be to meet 100% of the state have universal pre-K?
No, I do not, and I know that's the goal. We're getting there. 95% is an impressive number at this point, and we are hoping when the legislature puts their budget out and the negotiations start that at least that number stays in the budget.
Governor Hochul mentioned she wants to address learning losses that occurred during the pandemic, something we've spoken about, by using $250 million of that foundation aid promise to fund tutoring programs. She said those could be set up by districts in-house or using partnerships. In your mind, is the infrastructure there across the state to roll that sort of system out?
Well, we do have a shortage. That's a very good question. Not only a shortage in teacher workforce in certain areas, we have shortages in bus drivers, mental health counselors, things of that nature. But I do think our schools have been creative. They recognize that high-dosage tutoring is an important way to get the students that have been lagging based on the unfortunate results of the pandemic and the learning losses you refer to. High-dosage tutoring is really important, and I think schools can lean on retired teachers to come back and help out and have teachers be assigned to 1, 2, or 3 students to do this high-dosage tutoring, which is different than the tutoring I was accustomed to when I was young. If I had lacking grades, my mother or a family member would help me out at home. High-dosage tutoring is in the actual school curriculum. It happens during a year. It's part of the teaching program throughout. So these students are getting it every week, several times throughout the year. So it's really a proven way to catch these students up. I know our school districts are very creative as far as coming up with solutions, but you can't avoid the fact that there are staffing shortages in some places. So but they can get creative as long as the money's there from the state.
If I remember correctly, the School Boards Association put a report out recently, I'll say in the past couple of years, on that high-dosage tutoring.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we saw that as we saw we'll call it the learning loss again, but we have to look at it as a learning opportunity. The funding's there, and we have an opportunity as long as this budget supports our systems, our superintendents, our boards, and our teachers to bring these students back up to speed. But we saw, it was not an ideal situation when basically this state was hit the hardest at the beginning, and we had to pivot, and a lot of schools closed down. And then we had a hybrid where they'd be in the classroom once in a while, and then they would be out of the classroom. Now, a lot of students thrived, but there was a lot of students at risk or maybe needed to be live in the classroom that have slipped backwards. And that happened in other states. So we recognize that, and we realize one of those solutions is that high-dosage tutoring, which is so important because it's baked into the whole year as far as the learning plan for the school district versus one-off tutoring when you need it, when you're getting behind or you need some help.
Shifting beyond the state of the state and the budget, the state education department has ordered school districts to remove all Indian mascots and associated Native American imagery by the end of the current school year. Does the State School Boards Association have any role in that process?
We do. We are continually working with the state education department on many issues. We meet with them on a monthly basis. But I do want to say one thing, that SED is looking for a commitment by the end of this year as far as removing mascots that could be offensive to community members or students. Now, right now, we estimate 65 school districts in the state have Indian mascots. But again, they're looking for a commitment and a plan on how they would remove those mascots that have that deleterious effect on students and community members. That will phase in over time. And one thing to remember on the mascot issue, this is a law or regulation from SED, the State Education Department, that was put into place, I think, I'm pretty sure in 2001. A lot of our districts have already made those changes. There's 65 left, and there are certain circumstances where they might not have to remove the mascot. We're working with SED, to your point, to make sure that they give us more clarity and we can help out our member districts as they go through this process.
Yeah, to that point, those 65 districts that you mentioned, what are you hearing from them, particularly maybe as it pertains to some challenges they're facing, questions they might have as they go through this?
And that's why I said we need clarity, greater clarity, so we can support these districts. Certain symbols or mascots that have a Native American name might not be considered offensive or impacting, once again, a child or a community member. So clarity is the key. We know that we still have some questions we want to ask, but we're working with them. I mean, we've seen this play out in professional sports. We saw the Cleveland Guardians and the Washington Commanders as an example. This is an opportunity too. If there is that commitment, you have to make that commitment, and you're going to change. It could be a great student project to have students and communities come together to work on renaming their mascot, and really it all lines up with the principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we have endorsed that since the beginning. There are a lot of different students in the school district system, and we want to make sure that they come there, they have a comfortable environment, and which will allow them to learn and be contributors to our society down the road.
Bob Schneider is the executive director of the New York State School Boards Association. Bob, thank you for your time.
Excellent. Thank you.
Bob Schneider is executive director of the New York State School Boards Association. He spoke with the best of our knowledge's Jim Levulis. You're listening to The Best of Our Knowledge. With the help of state funding, the burgeoning video game development industry is getting a boost in upstate New York. As The Best of Our Knowledge's Dave Lucas reports, local leaders want to put the area's game development economy into turbo mode.
Empire State Development has announced plans for Rocket Science Corporation's new $1.6 million headquarters in Glenville in Schenectady County. The 8,200-square-foot facility on Saratoga Road will house the international gaming developer along with the Capital District Gaming Studio, a video game incubator, and game developer certification facility. ESD is awarding Rocket Science approximately $1.2 million in performance-based Excelsior Jobs Program tax credits for the creation of 30 jobs and a $200,000 grant for construction and renovation costs. Michael Yevely is the regional director of the Capital Region's Office for Empire State Development.
Anytime we can announce bringing a worldwide digital gaming company to a firehouse in Glenville, Schenectady County is, I think, a great announcement for New York State, for the Capital Region, and for Schenectady, and for the town of Glenville. Rocket Science Games, their investment in this project, not only for themselves and what they're going to bring as far as new jobs and investment for the company, but also for the industry with the Capital District Gaming Studio. So the goal is to really grow the industry from the ground up. They're going to offer incubator space, some certification facilities, partnerships with local colleges, SUNY Schenectady, University of Albany. So it's really a holistic approach to growing the industry.
Guha Bala is president of Velen Studios in Troy.
It really is possible at this point for small teams to make a big impact and be unique and innovative. but they need support when they're small.
State Assembly member John McDonald, a Democrat from the 108th District, has been a huge supporter of the new Empire State Digital Gaming Tax Credit.
It was approved in last year's budget, and as of January 1st is now up and running. And the intention behind the tax credit is quite simple. Many other states and countries have been really working to recruit the digital gaming industry to come to their communities. New York State was way behind schedule, but fortunately Governor Hochul saw fit and signed it included in part of the budget last year.
McDonald, who moderated a panel discussion about the tax credit program, says the application process for small independent entities is now open and live online.
We had some very constructive conversations about the fact that we need to flood the zone, maximize this credit, demonstrate that it has value. The video game industry is only going to get larger one way or the other. Right now, it's a $184 billion industry in the United States of America. The film industry is now looking to incorporate the digital gaming in their productions. New York State cannot be left behind in this aspect. We need to make sure we're competitive. And to be very clear, there are other states that are throwing hundreds of millions of dollars, if not $500 million, to these companies. New York State is starting off small. We're at about $15 million, but it's a start. The door's open. Let's demonstrate its value and demonstrate the economic return.
Republican Glenville Supervisor Chris Ketzley says he's thrilled rocket science is coming to the town.
Not only are they rehabbing an old, dilapidated building, but they're bringing new high-tech jobs and really trying to help revitalize a commercial corridor.
Reporting for the best of our knowledge, I'm Dave Lucas.
Last year was another warm one in the Northeast. 2022 was the sixth warmest year on record in Massachusetts. The summer ranked as the second warmest according to an analysis by Michael Rollins, Associate Director of the Climate System Research Center at UMass Amherst. Rollins spoke with the best of our knowledge's Paul Tuthill.
If we look at the whole data record going over 128 years, there's a clear trend upward, particularly the last 20, 30 years. It's gotten a lot warmer. It's undeniable that the climate's warming. I should mention that these warmer temperatures through 2022 came on the heels of a rather persistent La Nina pattern in the Pacific Ocean. It's been hanging on for almost 3 years now, and we do tend to see, anyway, at least globally, temperatures are a little cooler in La Ninas, a little warmer in El Ninos. Oceans are absorbing about 90% of the additional heat from the increasing greenhouse gases. So a lot of energy is going into the oceans, and it has to come out eventually. So we expect maybe much warmer temperatures when we transition to the next El Nino coming up here sometime soon.
Is that causing all the precipitation that they're getting in California right now?
Southern California, the southwest U.S. typically is wetter during an El Nino. But nonetheless, I mean, the record rainfall they're seeing, these atmospheric rivers bearing all of this water, is just another sign that, you know, a warmer atmosphere holds more moisture. And so as we've seen the climate warming, we're seeing a lot of places where you're seeing these extreme precipitation events. And what they're seeing out west now is these long dry periods punctuated by occasional really, really heavy rain. And that's really consistent with our understanding of a warming climate.
Back here to the Northeast, I saw recently a quote from a longtime farmer in Hampshire County who said the weather here is now like New Jersey's. Is that an accurate description?
That's a very accurate description. We know that the climate has warmed, you know, a couple degrees. What we feel here right now is similar to what perhaps, you know, New Jersey, northeastern Pennsylvania maybe felt 100 years ago. Going forward, we like to put these folks put these maps together that suggest that by the end of the century, the climate in Massachusetts might feel more like something like eastern Tennessee, what they're used to. So our generations right now are experiencing a climate that was relatively foreign, unknown to previous generations. I mean, we're just losing the frozen season. If you think about that, there's so little snow in this winter. We're seeing a lot more rain. Winters have warmed by about 3 degrees Fahrenheit around in this area. So we're losing the cold season. And yeah, we're feeling more like areas to the south did 100 years ago.
Now, I read recently that scientists say the hole in the ozone layer is being repaired, or I don't know if repaired is the right description for it, but they said that it could take a couple of decades for it to close. What are the chances that this overall warming of the climate can still be reversed?
Well, yeah, the ozone hole is repairing itself. Our limitations on the use of CFCs, the refrigerants that were used back in the past that tend to destroy the ozone, we're seeing that natural process, that ozone hole heal itself, and in a few decades, we might see the levels come back to normal. The climate is a little bit more challenging in that we really are not seeing the abatement, the reduction in the greenhouse gas emissions that will bring down the concentrations in the atmosphere. We're just seeing there's just the lack of the will collectively to transition more rapidly. So we're going to be in a little bit more challenging position with mitigating the increase in greenhouse gases and the warming of the climate. Really got to get aggressive in transitioning to renewables because the emissions are not peaking, and until the emissions peak and decrease, it'll only be then when the concentrations start to stabilize in the atmosphere. So we've got much more work to do.
Michael Rollins is Associate Director of the Climate System Research Center at UMass Amherst. He spoke with Paul Tuthill. This has been The Best of Our Knowledge, episode 1687. The Best of Our Knowledge is a national production of WAMC Northeast Public Radio. Thanks to associate producer Jody Cowan. Our executive producer is Dr. Alan Shartok. To hear past episodes, visit our flagship station's website at wamc.org. Until next time, I'm Lucas Willard.